On Wednesday of last week, I was working in my office, and I glanced out the window into the parking lot, and there I saw a car pull up. And two women got out of the car, went to the trunk, opened it, leaned in, and then each of them pulled out this big pan. I rushed around to open the door for them to the parish hall. And as they came in, I looked at the pans, and there I saw these delicious-looking homemade pies. I wished at the moment that I had had a fork to take a big bite out of at least one of them. I heard Jesus say, "Well done, you good and trustworthy servants. Enter into the joy of your master." Those women had made these pies for our community Thanksgiving dinner. Now, Henry will tell you more in detail, but I will tell you for now that parish hall was full. We had more than 225 guests from our community, from our neighborhood, most of whom were homeless, all of whom were in need. And we had scores of parishioners there who were preparing and serving the food, sitting down and visiting with our guests, clearing away the tables. And I heard Jesus say, "Well done, good and trustworthy servants. Enter into the joy of your master." Those words of Jesus come to us from this gospel today. Now, I don't know what your experience was when you heard the gospel, or what your experience was when you heard that reading from Zephaniah, or even from Paul in Thessalonians. Zephaniah is talking about the day of the Lord. And that day, according to Zephaniah, will be a day of grief for those who have been faithless. And Blessed Paul in Thessalonians talks about the day of the Lord as a day that will come like a thief in the night. And then the gospel today. Jesus tells the story of this master who is a man of great wealth. And he brings his servants in before he starts on a trip. And he entrusts his wealth, his fortune to them. To the first servant, he gives 5 talents. Now, 1 talent represents the wages for a laborer over the course of 10 to 15 years. That's a lot of money. That's great wealth. That first servant receives the 5 talents. The second servant, he receives 2 talents. And the third servant receives 1 talent. And the master says, "Now, while I'm away, I want you to put my fortune to work so that when I return, it will have been multiplied." And so off he goes, and so off those servants go. And one day, the master returns. He returns by surprise. And it's, if you will, the day of the Lord. And he calls the servants together and asks for an accounting. He says, "What have you done with my wealth? Have you put it to work? And the one servant who got the 5 talents says, yes, master. Here, I made 5 more for you. And he says, well done. And the second says, I've doubled your fortune. And presents it to him. And he says, well done to him. Well done, good and trustworthy servants. Enter into the joy of your master. And that third servant, he comes, he shakes the dirt off that talent which he had buried, and he presents it to his master, and the master says, whoa, wait a minute. Is this it? Yes, master, that's it. And the master says, cast him out into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, what in the world could Jesus be thinking in telling this story? What is Matthew's purpose in telling this story of Jesus to his followers there in that first century Christian community? And what about Zephaniah? What about Paul? With that emphasis on the day of the Lord. The intention, I believe, is not to scare people. But the intention, I think, instead, is to let people know that there will be a time of accounting. There will be a day of the Lord. There will be a day of judgment. There will be that time when the master wants to know what his servants have done with his wealth. And that wealth, what if that wealth is the life that God has given us, given to each one of us? What if that wealth consists of our responsibilities as the followers of Jesus? Those baptismal promises that we made and that we renew. Those promises to, in Paul's words, put on the breastplate of faith and love. How have we worn that breastplate? How have we been faithful? How have we done the works of love? What have we done with the lives that God has given us? The responsibilities, yes, but also the resources. We are wealthy people. Wealthy in time, wealthy in experience, wealthy in things that we can do well, wealthy in terms of our material resources, our money. One day, I believe, I will stand before the Lord and I will have to give account. And I hope I'm able to do that. And I hope that I will have been faithful, that I will have been loving. Now, let me just emphasize that the people of this parish are loving people, are faithful people, are hardworking people. I saw that on Wednesday night when I heard Jesus say, "Well done." I know that from the response, your response to the appeal for our Giving God's Love campaign. We have seen people double their pledges. We have seen people pledge for the first time. We have seen people in this parish respond generously. And I have heard Jesus say, well done. Well done, people of Christ Church. Well done, you good and faithful servants. Enter into the joy of your master. And in a little while, we'll hear from Dr. Dunn about ministry in Haiti. He spoke after the 8 o'clock service, and he spoke at the 9 o'clock service, and at the 8 o'clock service, and after those services, I saw people respond. I saw people fill out pledge cards for sponsorship of children in Haiti. And I heard Jesus say, well done, you good and trustworthy servants. Enter into the joy of your master. The scriptures witness to what I believe is the truth, which is that one day all people will face God and will be called to give account for the wealth that God has put into our hands. That wealth of responsibilities to be His servants, but that wealth too of resources in order to carry out the work of Christ, the work of God through Jesus, in building up this church and in extending Christ's love into the world and furthering that kingdom of love, which is made visible in righteousness and truthfulness, in justice and in mercy and compassion, and all those great and wonderful ways. Now, at that moment of accountability, what I hope I hear, and what I know I'm going to hear, as God calls the people of Christ Church to account, is this. Well done, Christ Church. You have been faithful in a little, and now receive the abundance. Enter into your master's joy. And the master's joy, people, the joy you will receive is the joy of heaven. The joy of fellowship with God eternally. Well done. God bless you. Amen.